It took me 40 years of living, failing, winning, losing, rebuilding, and redefining myself to truly understand what I'm about to share with you in just 14 minutes. And if you listen closely, it might save you decades of confusion, pain, and wasted potential. Most people don't fail because they are weak, unlucky, or untalented. They fail because they never learn how their own mind works. For years, I believed success was about intelligence, opportunity, or working harder than everyone else. But life taught me a deeper truth. Your life changes the moment you change the meaning you give to things. Two people can experience the same event, rejection, failure, loss, and one becomes bitter, while the other becomes unstoppable. The difference isn't the event, it's the story they tell themselves about it. When I was younger, I didn't understand this. I thought motivation was something you waited for, confidence was something you were born with, and success was something reserved for a lucky few. But 40 years of experience taught me that motivation is manufactured, confidence is built through repeated action, and success is a skill set, one that anyone can learn if they're willing to do the inner work. What most people don't realize is that your decisions shape your destiny far more than your conditions ever will. You can be in the worst circumstances and still rise, or in the best circumstances and still fall, because life doesn't respond to your wishes, it responds to your standards. For a long time, I accepted standards that were too low. I tolerated excuses, distractions, and fear because they felt comfortable. But comfort is the enemy of growth. The moment you raise your standards, what you expect from yourself, what you allow in your life, what you refuse to tolerate, everything begins to change. 40 years taught me that lasting change doesn't come from massive effort once in a while. It comes from small, consistent actions done daily, even when you don't feel like it. Success is boring, it's repetitive, it's unglamorous, and that's why most people never achieve it. They're addicted to intensity, not consistency. One of the hardest lessons I learned is that nobody is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your friends, not your government, not your circumstances. The moment you accept full responsibility for your life, you reclaim your power. Responsibility isn't a burden, it's freedom. When you stop blaming the past, you stop giving it control over your future. I spent years blaming my background, my mistakes, and my fears until I realized that every excuse I made was quietly stealing my potential. 40 years taught me that excuses feel good in the moment, but they cost you everything in the long run. Growth begins the instant you tell yourself the truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. Another truth I learned too late is that your focus determines your emotional state. Whatever you focus on consistently, you feel deeply. If you focus on what you lack, you feel empty. If you focus on what you fear, you feel paralyzed. But if you focus on growth, gratitude, and progress, even small progress, you feel alive. For years, I allowed my focus to drift toward problems instead of solutions, limitations instead of possibilities. Once I trained my focus intentionally, my emotions followed, and once my emotions changed, my actions changed. Emotions are not random, they are signals created by what you focus on and what you believe. Change either one, and your entire emotional landscape shifts. 40 years also taught me that pain is not your enemy, avoidance is. Pain is the greatest teacher if you're willing to listen. Every failure, every heartbreak, every setback carries a lesson, but most people are too busy running from pain to learn from it. I learned that growth happens when you lean into discomfort instead of escaping it. Confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act despite fear. Courage isn't feeling brave, it's deciding that something else matters more than your fear. When you stop trying to avoid pain and start using it, you transform it into fuel. One of the most powerful lessons I learned is that identity shapes behavior. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. If you see yourself as someone who quits, you'll quit. If you see yourself as someone who grows, you'll grow.
For years, I tried to change my habits without changing how I saw myself, and it never lasted. The moment I shifted my identity, who I believed I was and what I stood for, my habits followed naturally. Change your identity, and your behavior will chase it. I also learned that time is not your most valuable resource. Energy is. You can have all the time in the world, but without energy, clarity, and purpose, you'll waste it. How you eat, move, think, and speak to yourself directly affects your energy. For decades, I underestimated the power of physical and mental conditioning. When I finally mastered my energy, my productivity, creativity, and happiness skyrocketed. Success isn't about managing time better, it's about managing yourself better. 40 years taught me that success without fulfillment is failure in disguise. You can achieve everything you once dreamed of and still feel empty if your life lacks meaning. True fulfillment comes from growth and contribution, knowing you're becoming more and giving more. When your life is only about you, it will always feel small. When your life is about serving something bigger than yourself, it expands beyond limits. Purpose is not something you find, it's something you create through commitment and action. If there's one final lesson 40 years taught me, it's this: your future is not defined by your past, but by the decisions you make today. You don't need more time, more money, or more confidence. You need a decision, a real decision, not a wish. A decision that says, no matter what, I will find a way. When you decide, your brain looks for solutions. When you hesitate, it looks for excuses. Life rewards clarity, courage, and commitment. If you truly absorb what I've shared in these 14 minutes, you won't just feel motivated, you'll feel awakened. Because motivation fades, but understanding lasts. And once you understand how your mind, emotions, identity, and decisions shape your destiny, you can never unsee it. That understanding took me 40 years to earn, but now it's yours, if you choose to use it. YouTube description, in English. It took 40 years of experience, mistakes, growth, and self-discovery to learn these life-changing truths, but you can understand them in just 14 minutes. In this powerful motivational talk, inspired by Tony Robbins, you'll discover why most people stay stuck, how your decisions shape your destiny, and the hidden mindset shifts that create real, lasting success. If you've ever felt lost, unmotivated, afraid to take action, or unsure of your purpose, this video will hit you hard. Watch with an open mind, take notes, and be ready to challenge the stories you've been telling yourself.